Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley and I'm a six-figure reseller on Poshmark and eBay. And today I'm going to go over 4 things that you should avoid doing when pricing your items on Poshmark and eBay. This is going to be a little bit more specific to Poshmark just because Poshmark has more historical data and their sold listings and has a little bit smaller of a community versus eBay is a little bit more widespread. It only holds data after 90 days and not everyone has their solds available for others to see. So this is going to be more particular toward Poshmark in order to make a quicker sale and avoid a decline in the market. So the first thing that you should avoid doing is pricing your item without any room for negotiation, already pricing it at your lowest point. People on Poshmark, more specifically than eBay, are really always looking to get their own deal on an item. No matter how low the price is, they always want a lower price. I don't know what it is versus Poshmark and eBay, but with Poshmark, it's just like this mentality that you send an offer, the offer button is right there, big and bold. For how many years Poshmark has been along, it's always been like an offer platform. So if you're pricing without any room for negotiation, you are essentially probably not going to make the sale that you want, because buyers who come across a listing that has a firm price sometimes can get turned off by that, especially for some reason. If you don't specifically say price firm in the listing, people can get confused and they're like, why would you not even say that? Of course, Poshmark is a platform where you send offers. So that alone I've seen over the years really just shows that Poshmark is such a negotiation platform. So you always want to leave a little bit of room, even if it is just $5 to negotiate. And I have even found this to be true with my own items. Sometimes when I'm just getting so fed up with an item and I just want it gone, I'm like, okay, fine. I'm just gonna price it at a point that is so much lower than all the other available listings. I just want to get it gone. I'll just be firm on my price. I may even still have room for like a $5 negotiation, but it's still very, very low with very little room to negotiation. Let's say like with those $5. Let's say for instance, I'll take 10 but I price it for 15. Let's take that item for example. Even with those items, I have found I'm much better off pricing it at $25 and then sending an offer or accepting an offer for $10 and listing it for 15. People just like to see that they're getting a bigger deal when they're getting items off Poshmark. So it's always better to have that room for negotiation so that buyers feel like they are winning when it comes to buying your items. The second thing that you should avoid doing is undercutting all the available listings in order to make a quick sale. And this is more so specifically if you're undercutting in a way that is much lower than any historical sold. So essentially speaking, even though that you know that you can sell it for $100 and it's historically sold for $100, you're pricing it at $70 and selling it at like $60, $70. And I know a lot of people may come at me and say that you can price whatever you want, you're trying to make a quick sale, you're still making a decent profit. However, this is why you should avoid this. And there are 2 specific reasons why. The first reason is if it's historically selling at $100, why would you be cutting yourself out of all that extra money? Even if it takes an extra week to sell, that could be, $30 extra that you can make. So I don't know why you would do that to yourself when the money is historically there and it has been shown to sell at that price. And the second reason why you should avoid doing this is because over time you can affect the market and essentially cause a decrease in the resale price of the item. Let's say for instance you eventually sell this item that could sell for $100 at $60, and the next person that comes along and see this, maybe they're new, they're just starting, they don't realize what they can sell it for. Maybe a buyer comes by and sees that somebody had sold it for 60 before. They pull the classic, oh, this sold for 60 before, would you take 60? They don't know, they sell it for 60, and then it just repeats and repeats, and eventually all the solds end up being $60, and over time that just caused a decrease in the market. And now not only can other people not sell it for as high anymore, but if you ever come across this item, if you're trying to do the same thing, then you'll just undercut it again to like $40, and eventually you just bring the market down. I see this so many times with so many great brands and styles, and it's so big within the reseller community. There's so many other factors that go into it, but keeping a long story short, it's just supply and demand. There's so many people that are selling the item out there, and then so many of those people are willing to sell it for less, and that just drives it down. Versus, I mean, if everyone were to keep it at the same price, price, then the sellers would control the market, but they just allow the buyers to control the market at that point, and it just decreases it down totally. And it's not like gas prices where they can go up and down. I've honestly never seen a brand or style come back after it's been dropped so low. And so that's the unfortunate part of reselling and why you always have to stay on top of things, because when things become popular, it just ends up being driven down, and then it's no longer a great item to sell, and then you just have to move on to the next thing. And again, there's so many other things that can go into it just within the market and economy of supply and demand, but overall what you can do to help prevent that is by not undercutting those sold listings and driving the price down yourself when you can avoid that, and that is something that you can control. Because historical data is not as lengthy on eBay, I don't see this as much of a problem on eBay. People really aren't coming onto listings and really doing their research and seeing what has sold before and being able to see what has sold so far back versus on Poshmark. So I don't think this is as big of a problem on eBay. And if selling quantity for a low price is something that is your business that you want to look into, I would definitely be really more focused on eBay and doing it that way versus Poshmark. However, on the other hand, you still do not want to price it just based off of the highest listing that's currently available, especially if you're not looking at sold listings. A lot of times I will come across an item and it is grossly overpriced and comparative to other listings or comparative to what has sold before. Just because somebody has listed it for a really high price that you see available doesn't mean that you should also list it the same way in order to avoid, any market price drop, or in order to just be competitive with the highest price available. Because that item may have been sitting there for a really long time, even if they have relisted it. Even if you were to check the date it was listed by looking at the photo, it could have been relisted over time. You never know how long the item has been there for. What is a good factor sometimes is seeing how many likes it has. As if it does have a decent amount of likes at that price, maybe it's okay to go ahead and price it at that point. That means you can probably get a lot of likes as well, and worst case scenario, send out a really deep discount in order to make the sale. However, I talked about this before in a what sold video where I myself priced something grossly too much. I had priced it over double what I eventually sold it for. So I priced it like $600 and eventually sold for like $300, I believe. And it wasn't until I continued to drop the price I was able to make the sale. I had priced it at that $600 to start off with, and I was sending offers for like $400, $300 and wasn't making a sale. And it wasn't until I priced it at $400 and sent an offer for $300 that eventually sold. So pricing it super high when historically it hasn't sold that high before isn't always the best case scenario. You always want to do your research within the listings and the sold listings, know exactly what the best way to price the item is going to be. And so that goes into the fourth and last thing that you should avoid doing, and that is avoid just blindly looking at comps and pricing your item accordingly. So whenever you're looking at available listings and sold listings, you always want to look into listing to see why it might have sold for that price that it is. Essentially, more so than not, you want to look at the outliers of the comps to see why they may sold for more or why they may have sold for less. So I'll always go into items that had sold for historically less and see, okay, is it because there's a person just selling their own items? Are their pictures really bad? Is there a flaw with the item? Do they not have any of their own photos on there? There's so many other things and reasons why someone can sell it for less. Another thing is if it sold for a lot more, maybe going in, seeing if it maybe looks like it sold in a bundle. I'll even sometimes go as far, not too much anymore, but depending on the item, we'll go into the person's account, see what it sold for and what they usually price items at. And if it's sold at a price, let's say for instance, for me, I price a lot of things, let's say at like $2.99. I price a lot of things the same price. So if it's sold at $2.99, then you'll probably know it probably sold in a bundle, because more often than not, especially for higher price items, full price sales are pretty rare. So if you go into the closet and you see a sold item that sold at a price that a lot of other available items are listed at, it probably sold in a bundle and probably sold for less than that actual number. So that will give you a little bit more realistic idea of if it fits closer to more of the lower sold items. So after you look at all the items, you can evaluate how your item and how your closet and how your listing stacks up against all of that to really decide if you can sell for a little bit more or if it's going to sell pretty similar to the other comps. Because depending on the item, the listing I have, sometimes I'm like, okay, I can definitely sell it for more than all these other listings. And other times I look at how many are out there, who else has sold the item, what the listing looks like, and I'm like, okay, that's a little bit more in line with my type of closet, and I'll probably end up selling it for a very similar amount. So there's a lot of gray areas when it comes to pricing your items. I was gonna make this video about how I personally price my items, but then after thinking about it, I was like, I'm so bad at explaining things, and there's so many gray areas and so many what ifs and so many different situations that it's very hard to articulate exactly like my process behind pricing my items, because it can vary so much. So these are just some more practices that I just don't do, and I recommend avoid doing in order to price your items so that you can make better sales. And at the end of the day, everyone does run their business a little bit differently versus how long they're willing to hold on to an item versus not. And so at the end of the day, there is going to be different things that everyone has when it comes to pricing their items in order to make sure they're making the sale and having their turnover that they want. But overall, at the end of the day, you don't want to stray too far away from what is ideally seen in the market currently. I hope this video helps you out if you're new to Poshmark and or eBay and really deciding if you need to evaluate how you price your items. If you have any specific questions, feel free to leave them below in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram at ReCloth Collection. If you're looking for more videos like this to help you with your reselling game, for selling on Poshmark or eBay, or just your reselling business overall, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I do put up videos every single Wednesday, and do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. And other than that, I hope to see you guys next week. Bye.